Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and it has finally happened, and that is that I had a game in the T110E3 that I didn't actually truly despise. I know, it's taken a while. This is probably one of my least favourite tier 10 tanks to play. It's a long story as to why. It was because when the T110E4 first came out, all the way back in I think update 7.4 or something, when they added in tier 10 medium tanks and tier 10 tank destroyers in a single patch, the T110E4 was probably one of the best tanks in the history of World of Tanks at tier 10. It was so good that it had the enhanced armor of the T110E3, it had 850 alpha damage as well, like all 155mm and 150mm tank destroyer guns had at the time, and it was just combining that with decent enough mobility and nice semi-traversable turret. Wow, the T110E4 was an absolute behemoth of World of Tanks. The T110E3, it never really sparked my interest. What, I'm sacrificing all of the flexibility and mobility of my T110E4 to be able to just gain some frontal firepower? Yeah, the gun depression is definitely a nice upgrade on the T110E3 compared to the T110E4 though. I can't fault the 8 degrees of gun depression this tank has, and it really does allow it to be a little bit more flexible on a ridgeline. But apart from that, the T110E4 just absolutely smashed the T110E3. It only took about a patch or two until Wargaming realized this T110E4 is kind of replacing heavy tanks, and it was just too good at the game. And so they decided to massively nerf the statistics, but they also nerfed all of the tank destroyer guns from 850 down to 750 alpha damage, and I never really truly enjoyed the T110E3. If you think I'm going slightly mad here by looking to the left, looking to the right, that's because Wargaming has a new setting in this update, and that is that you can unlock the automatic hull lock inside sniper mode, meaning that you could actually, inside the sniper mode, look completely behind the vehicle even when you're looking forwards, whereas previously the T110E3 was locked to only being able to look to its gun traverse. It's definitely helped me feel a little bit more comfortable in the T110E3, but has it propelled it to being a tank that suddenly I want to jump into all the time? Not really. More on that with regards to the other turreted tank destroyers like the T110E4 and also vehicles like the K91 in upcoming videos, probably in the next week or two, unless I forget. Anyway, so the T110E3 just never really caught me in World of Tanks. Very much a strong frontal vehicle with a nice big hitting gun. Nice if you can keep your opponents in front of you, but more often than not, I just feel as if I would be slightly skill capped in this tank, and that you often just have your tracks locked down, somebody managed to get your side and just grind you down. I'm more of an offensive player. I want to try and have some gun depression and a turret to get on a ridgeline and shut down my opponents, with hopefully outmaneuvering them and outplaying them. Now you can definitely outplay your opponents in a T110E3. I'm not saying that it's a low skill cap tank with regards to that, but quite often, maybe just my playstyle and certain map knowledge, you can't really take advantage of certain things when your mobility is just this poor. However, Equipment 2.0 arrived, and that has definitely sped up the T110E3. Now it's gone from being able to reverse at 8 kilometers an hour to 10 if you're using the turbocharger on your T110E3 like I have. And also, the abysmal forward speed of 24 kilometers an hour is now going to be a more healthy 28. So all in all, the mobility upgrade on the T110E3, it hasn't suddenly catapulted it to being a tank which is suddenly something that I really want to play all the time. No, it's still very much a tank for people who want to take it slowly, want to trundle into position, and want to really outgrind some of the heavy tanks, and especially the medium tanks, and even manage to bounce some of the tank destroyer guns, like we saw against the Gorilla in that scenario. So, how else am I setting up my T110E3? You now know I'm using a turbo. You'll also notice from the hit points on this tank that I'm also using the enhanced durability module, which will also improve my track health and allow me to be more comfortable within that regard. What would the third module I would pick? Well, on this tank, I'm actually taking vents. A lot of you might rather take a gun rammer, but remember that vents, if you put them inside the durability slot or the firepower slot, is still going to give you 3% firepower overall, as well as making everything else like the accuracy, the gun handling, the traverse speed better on this tank. And I thought to myself, how often am I in the T110E3 where I'm instantly able to reload and I really need to just get the damage out in the tank? Or how much more am I trying to chase the enemy to be able to find them? And that's really where, or even just to spot them at decent distances, which is why I want to have the vents on this vehicle. Alright, so now we're loading some high explosive rounds on this tank. One of the devastating aspects of this vehicle is 90mm of penetration and 1100 alpha. I loaded this to hope that I'd shoot the Bat Chat. I loaded this to hope that I'd maybe find the gorilla who took a shot at us. And what I truly didn't expect, ladies and gentlemen, is that I'd have a Foch 155 using me as a meat shield, but it makes perfect sense. No, what I didn't expect is there'd be a Leopard prototype in front of me. Yeah, oh my, is it going to go all the way? Oh, did I just one-shot a tank with 1,700 damage? I didn't realize I was role-playing an FV215B183 in this game. And now we've managed to get another shot over this ridgeline, high explosive round into the GW Tiger. Can you believe that? 1,700 damage with the fire against that Leopard prototype. That was a 1,172 damage roll with a 528 fire on top of that. Truly disgusting. And it was at this moment that I thought, my God, could it finally happen that I have a good game in the T110E3? If I can manage to connect this shell into the gorilla, it will be absolutely delicious. I should have probably aimed just a little bit higher there to be able to fire into the gun shield of the gorilla. Nevertheless, we managed to lock the tracks down. We also spot the gorilla, and I'm pushing forwards, but I find myself in a fairly tricky situation here. We have a gold round enter our vehicle from the Centurion 7-1, so I immediately turn my tank towards the 7-1 and put some fire into the gorilla. Now the gorilla's actually fallen back to a point where I can keep my armor focused towards all of them. So I just want to advance a little bit. But whenever you see that I get spotted, it's of utmost importance that I keep my gun towards, well, I keep the thick part of my tank towards the T-57 Heavy and the gorilla. So I'm thinking, shall I cap right now or shall I advance out? Well, look, I'm trying to go for a big game here. I think that honestly going forwards and getting under a ridgeline right now and maybe not getting caught out in my lower plate against the 7-1 and the T-57 Heavy is going to be my best bet. I could, one thing I'd love to highlight is that if I really wanted to play this game where I wasn't just being voracious, I would have probably just sat in this position here. But then again, I might have had an issue with the amount of artillery on the enemy team. So by getting forwards, nailing the Centurion 7-1 for 437 damage and enabling the Foch 155 to finish off the Centurion 7-1. I'm kind of this front warrior right now, getting all of the focus from the enemy team and still allowing my gun line behind me with the Foch 155 and even the artillery who's sneaking into the enemy cap circle to still keep efficient. So I fired definitely a couple too many high explosive rounds there. I probably should have fired AP at the Centurion 7-1, and I should have fired the next AP round against the T-57 Heavy. But after the 352 damage we did with the HE, we load an APCR round, I believe, to finish off the Tier 10 American tank destroyer. And now I'm just thinking 6 kills, 6,800 damage. Maybe we can get some revenge on those self-propelled guns who were hitting us earlier. The shot flies true, and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. That was a round in the T110E3. And look, it's taken about 200 games, I'd say, to actually have a round where I felt that everything really went well in this tank. I'd just like to clarify, yeah, it took me about 200 games before I had one where I felt like, wow, that was a round of World of Tanks. And that's why you probably don't see me talk about this tank very much or even feature it on my YouTube channel. I think the last time that I featured the T110E3 was when we were talking about other players having better games in the T110E3 than I've ever been able to. And I think if there's one thing that I've realized about this vehicle is that maybe I just want to try and make World of Tanks a little bit too exciting. Maybe I want to try and force the game a little bit too much. This tank is not my playstyle, but just because it's not my playstyle doesn't mean that it might not be absolutely deadly in the hands of you out there who just want to cover your right, cover your left, and hold a choke point and really obliterate whatever's in front of you, as long as they can't take your tracks off, right, and manage to get the side of your vehicle, because then it's definitely not going to be good news for you. And so that's why I feel like this setup on the T110E3 with the turbo to be able to make it faster than ever, with the module to increase the durability of the tracks to try and stop your opponents from being able to lock you down in position, with a little bit of the flexibility coming from the vents, has been something that has made the vehicle just a little bit more enjoyable for me. So it finally happened. My ace tank for 1,322 base. We get a high caliber medal for the 7,000 damage that we dealt. We get a top gun medal for the 7 kills that we picked up, and also a steel wall medal for managing to block 4,160 damage with only 3 shells actually entering the vehicle out of the 18 that hit our tank. And while we fired a healthy amount of gold ammunition this game, we still make a decent profit, albeit with a premium account. So that's it for today, ladies and gents. I really hope you enjoyed this juggernaut of a video in the T110E3. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, however, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for the World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase. And this week, most of you have voted for the Leopard 1, meaning that it's time to feature the best sniping medium tank in the game and all of the vehicles that lead up towards it. In addition to this, there's going to be drops enabled on the channel for today only to make it a little bit sweeter for you. So really looking forward to seeing all of you live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.